Hello, welcome to the Horus Heresy. I'm your host, Rob. Today's video is going to be helping you build lists in the Horus Heresy in the new 3.0. I'm going to be using the Liber Astartes as my example, and I'm sure things like the Solar Auxilia and also the Knights book are going to have slightly different ways for building army lists, and when they're eventually out, I'll also cover those as well. There's lots of things about building army lists in 3.0 that are very free. You can pretty much take anything that you want realistically, depending on the amount of points you're going to spend. But also, you do get advantages for building armies in a certain way. And you do need certain units to be able to unlock certain sections of how they build, or they want you to build armies using the detachment system. So these are all pretty interesting, and I'm very much looking forward to building army lists in it. But let me know in the comments below what you think of it so far. So the first thing that we are going to look at, or the first thing we're going to talk about, is we're going to talk about units. And units really have two different things to them that are super important to discuss. The first thing that's important to discuss is that you have battlefield roles. This will be the main and most important thing that we'll cover in this video. And a battlefield role is really giving you a thematic example or a thematic reason for these units. Troops, obviously, or legionnaires are in the troop section, and high command units are in the high command. And if you are new to the Horus Heresy or just starting out, you might be a little bit confused as to what is a fast attack and how that's different to a recon squad. I guess it's a real nice thematic way of splitting these units out into different sections, but also maybe to identify them in different unit roles, or identify what their job on the tabletop might be as well. But for list building, you definitely can also break out these sections and to build really thematic lists. For instance, all dreadnought armies, or you might want a much more heavily armored like force with lots of tanks, or you might just want lots of troops. And they do give you a lot of abilities to do that and make a lot of creative list writing choices, which I think is very fun. Okay, so the two things, like I said, that are important are battlefield roles, and there's going to be types and subtypes. Those are going to become important later because of the bonuses that you can get from list building. So the first thing that we're going to look at, and using the Liber Astartes as our example, is we are going to look at battlefield roles. The first battlefield role is high command, and it's got units like praetors and different types of armor. Then you've got the command battlefield role. This has got things like centurions, opete, librarians, librarians? I can't say that right. Moritar, Pravarians, siege breakers, overseers. Your high command is obviously your one-offs. These are the leaders of your force, and commands definitely are like sub-commanders effectively. Then you've got retinues, and these are, not quite elites. These are semi-support squads. I guess they support the entire army. You got things like Praetorian command squads, Tartarus Terminator command squads, Cataphracti Terminator command squads. Then you got elites, and I mean, the name really describes what these are. These are the elites of your force. So you got veteran tactical squads, veteran assault squads, and also seeker squads. Then you got heavy assaults. These are, as it says, like troops, but they are much more heavily armored. So you've got the different types of Terminators: Cataphracti, Tartarus, and also Saturnine. Then you got your classic troops. So you got tactical squads, despoiler squads, assault squads, and breacher squads. And when I do review each of these squads and units, or these books in the future, we'll go into more detail in exactly what they are, because what they are is really important as well, obviously. The support role, or the support battlefield role, contains lots of interesting choices, because something like a rapier battery is very different to a tech marine, which is obviously going to support your vehicles, or an apothecary, which is going to support your troops. Deathstorm drop pods and Arcanate quad accelerator platforms. That's a mouthful. Then you've got war engines as a battlefield role, and this is all your different types of dreadnoughts, including the new big boy. Then you have transports, which has got your classic Rhino drop pod and termites. Heavy transports gives you access to the ever-famous Spartan, Land Raiders, the Dreadnought drop pod, my favorite, the Charybdis Assault Claw. Then you've got recon squads, or the recon battlefield role, which has got things like reconnaissance squads, Saber, Outrider squadrons, Land Raider Explorator, Tarantula batteries. These, again, are very varied, very much like the support role, in that, like, you've got things like recon squads and batteries, which are very different, how you would think of them as units. But I guess what they do thematically is meant to stick into the recon section. Then you've got fast attack. So things like your flyers, Xiphon Interceptor, Storm Eagles, Fire Raptors. Then you've got your, not your flying units, but still flying, Scimitar, jet bikes, javelins, land speeder squadrons. Then you have your armor. This is your big tanks, so Predators, Sicarans, the Kratos, my favorite, the Vindicator siege tank, the Scorpius missile tank, and the Arquita Bombard. And then you've also got Lords of War. So then you've got, these are the massive tanks and vehicles, Cerberus heavy tank destroyer, Typhon heavy siege tank, the Falchion, the Mastodon heavy assault transport. When will that come in plastic? Let's find out. And lastly, you have the Warlord battlefield role, and this is going to be if you're playing with any of the Space Marine Legions, and it's going to be one of the 18 Primarchs that are available to you. Let me know which Primarch is your favorite. Obviously, Vulcan is the best, in my opinion. So those are your battlefield roles, and they are about to go into what is going to be a pretty overwhelming looking image in the Force organization chart, which we'll look at in a moment. Before we do that, we're going to look at unit types and subtypes. There are lots of different types of units in the Horus Heresy. You've got things like infantry, cavalry, vehicles, paragons, automata, and then underneath that you have subtypes of these. So you have unique, you have command, champion, specialist, sergeant, heavy, light, and a bunch of other keywords. Realistically, is what they are. They're not types and subtypes; they're just keywords, which help you identify, and also really useful for abilities or weapons that may affect certain types of units as well, or types or subtypes. We're going to look at the new Saturnine datasheet as an example to be able to explain or understand exactly what we're looking at here. So if we go and look at the type section for the Saturnine Terminator Squad, we can see in the bottom right-hand corner, well, in the middle of this image, we can see that this is a type is a infantry, and it is sergeant and heavy. So infantry is its type, and then its subtype in the brackets is sergeant and heavy. And then a regular Saturnine Terminator is infantry, and it's a heavy infantry. We can also see, and if you're ever interested in what unit, like what battlefield role a unit has, we can see the unit symbol or the battlefield role symbol at the top left-hand side of the datasheet. So a datasheet does actually tell you everything you need to know about a unit's battlefield role and also its unit type straight off, which is nice and simple, so you can understand whether or not you can upgrade stuff or where it would fit in the Force organization chart, which, speaking of, is the next thing that we are going to look at. This is the main Crusade Force organization chart. And initially, definitely, this can seem very overwhelming. The important part here is the detachment in the top left-hand corner, the Crusade primary detachment. As you can see, it's got several slots. The top left-hand slot is the high command slot, and that's the symbol for high command. Then we have 3 command slots, 4 troop slots, and we also have 4 transport slots. You'll notice that there is an odd shape or symbol around the first of the command slots and also the troop slot. This is because this is to do with prime slots and prime advantages, but we're going to talk about those later, and those aren't super important for now. You'll also see some arrows coming off these slots, and what they mean is you're able to unlock or add additional detachments to your army. So if we just take a moment again to look at the Crusade primary detachment, when you start to build your force, you'll give yourself a high command unit. So that will be one of the units that are available from the units that we talked about earlier. Then you'll pick a command unit, and then you'll put those in those slots. Nice and easy. So if you are building a force straight off the bat, this is pretty simple. Get yourself a couple of transports, get yourself a boss, get yourself a couple of commanders, and already you understand how to build an army. But this is where the creativity comes into the list building, and it becomes really, really broad, especially when we get into the fact that later down the line, you're also going to be able to bring in Legion-specific stuff to this. But the first thing that we are going to look at is the arrow on the left-hand side, and the fact that that takes us to the additional detachments at the bottom. When you take your high commander at the top, that is going to allow you to unlock the additional detachments, which you can see at the bottom. These are the combat retinue, the officer cadre, and the army vanguard, and we'll cover what's in those in a moment. When you take one of your command slots in the middle, for each command slot that you fill, you are going to be able to unlock an additional detachment from the 7 available. I think that's right. Yeah, 7 are available. You have Armored Fist, Tactical Support, Armored Support, Heavy Support, Combat Pioneer, Shock Assault, and First Strike. So really, by taking leadership models, you're just able to unlock the ability to take whichever other units that you would like to take. Makes a lot of sense and is very easy. There is also additional detachments which you're able to have, which don't require you to need, you don't unlock these. The first one is a Warlord detachment. Then you have a Lord of War detachment, and then allies. You're able to take up to 50% of your points in an army as an allied detachment. This consists of 2 command slots and 4 troop slots. I won't be covering allies very much right now because I'm assuming you're just building your army straight out as the army that you want to play. But there's definitely room for building or talking about list building even more in the future, in future videos. But you can take allies. That's cool. It can be a load of units. That's also very cool. So let's look at what is in each one of these detachments in a little bit more detail. So the Warlord detachment is going to include your Warlord, which is going to be your Primarch, then also a retinue and a heavy transport. The Lord of War detachment is going to allow you to take 2 Lord of Wars. It's good to talk about both of these in detail because no army may spend more than 25% of its points limit on units with either the Lord of War or Warlord battlefield role. So some of these are just not going to be available in low points games, which is good because they're just too powerful for that, which is very sensible. And the allied detachment, as I've said previously, is 2 commands and it's 4 troops. So if we do take our high commander gives us the ability to either unlock an additional auxiliary detachment or an apex detachment. We'll talk about what's in our auxiliary detachments first. These are also unlocked by either taken by our high command or by our command units. So the first is an armored fist. This gives you 4 additional light transports and 4 heavy transports, which means that you would be up to like 8 light transports, which means you could just put loads of Marines in loads of rhinos and run them around the board, which actually is very, very fun. I like that a lot. It's very, very cool. Then the next one is you have armored support, which is just 4 armored units. If I go back one, there's also tactical support, which gives the opportunity to have 2 troops and 2 support units as well. So these could be things like your apothecary, as an example. The next one, which I think everyone is very excited about, is your heavy support, which gives you 1 war engine, basically a dreadnought. Now, if you're smart and you notice, you can take your high command, your 3 commands. This is going to give you the ability to have 4 dreadnoughts straight off the bat with your Crusade primary detachment. That's quite a lot of firepower, and that is immediately how you can look to unlock these in a way in which you want. If you want to build more thematic armies, or I guess more like individual armies, like you want a lot of things like dreadnoughts as an example, or maybe you want a lot of tanks. Next one, Combat Pioneer gives you 2 recon choices. The Shock Assault gives you 2 heavy assault choices, and First Strike gives you 2 fast attack choices. Your high command slot gives you the ability to unlock apex detachments, and there are 3 to choose from. The first one, Combat Retinue, gives you 3 retinue units. The Officer Cadre gives you 2 command units, and the Army Vanguard gives you 3 elite units. What's important to note is each of these slots also has an individual prime slot available to them, which is going to give you prime advantages. So pretty simple. You take some characters, you unlock some other detachments, you take some units with the right battlefield role, and you put them inside of it. I like this. It's quite open. It's quite broad. It gives me a lot of opportunity to theme and do things that I want. I can take a bunch of extra characters from the Officer Cadre if I want to. I could go for a lot of troops and a lot of transports if I wanted to go that route as well. I think also, though, one of the things I found in at least doing the research for this video, I've had to flip between quite a lot of different pages. Like the symbols aren't necessarily something I immediately know. And the names then I have to remember, and then I have to go double check. And it feels like there's a lot of cross-referencing. So hopefully I'll be able to create, or there'll be some sort of app online where you'll be able to much more easily put these things together and search indexes. But it very much feels like you're going to open a bunch of books and look at that, which I quite like. That's who I am as a person. I think that's quite fun. But I definitely found like I was flipping between a lot of different images, and I guess these are also leaks, right? So like it's a lot of different images, a lot of different things to like collate together. So I found that to be quite intense. Let me know what you think so far, if it seems pretty simple. If you just take a ton of Marines, you don't need anything more really than the Crusade primary detachment, which is kind of cool. All right, let's talk about prime slots. So you will have noticed on the Crusade primary detachment, and also on some of our Apex detachments and our Allied detachment, that there are some symbols around some of the units. For each prime slot that is filled in a detachment, the controlling player of that army can select one prime advantage from the options that are available. Remember earlier on when we were talking about subtypes, many of these prime advantages benefit subtypes on units or types or subtypes on units. And this is how you're maybe going to either make your unit more thematic and more, or probably just more powerful, depending on which way you're going to choose to do it. One little like wrinkle in the rules to be aware of: if ever you fill one of these prime slots with a unit that has the unique subtype, then the only one of the prime slots that you are going to be able to pick is the prime advantage. The only prime advantage you're going to be able to pick, sorry, is the logistical benefit, because they're not going to be able to benefit from these extra bonuses. So the core prime traits that you have available, the first one is Master Sergeant. When one model in the unit is selected to fill the prime slot and it has the Sergeant subtype, it gains +1 to its attacks, weapon skill, and leadership characteristics. And the Champion subtype, if it already has the Champion subtype instead, increases its leadership to +1. And this advantage can only be selected once per detachment. This is pretty cool, especially if you're looking to build yourself a dueling character. I quite like that. It's quite fun. And I'm sure being able to just add those on just a basic troop that's got slightly higher leadership to make sure you pass the right tests is a nice advantage. The next one is Combat Veterans. All models in a unit selected to fill the prime slot gain a bonus of +1 to their leadership, cool, intelligence, and willpower characteristics to a maximum of 10. This includes models selected as part of the unit, not models that later join the unit either before or during the battle. You can add characters to units. They can join them either when you deploy them or later on in the game. And adding bonuses to all those is very good because there's lots of status effects in the Horus Heresy. You want to pass a lot of those status effects as well. Maybe put this on one of your elite units so that it's more likely to pass those. Or if you're even having it on a unit that maybe is trying to roll tests to be able to do stuff, then you're going to want to increase those. So that's a pretty nice one as well. The next one, Paragon of Battle. One model in the unit selected to fill this prime slot that has the command subtype gains a bonus of +1 to its attacks, weapon skill, and ballistic skill characteristic. A better commander that's more fighty and is better in duels. Duels are the best. Let's go. That's great. Next one is Special Assignment. Its prime advantage may only be selected for a command slot. A command slot with this prime advantage is selected may be filled by a high command unit, but remains a command slot. Moreover, no additional detachments of any kind may be selected due to this slot, regardless of their battlefield role or any special rules that the unit selected to fill the slot may have. Basically, given the opportunity to have 2 units that are in the high command battlefield role in your army and swap one down to put in the command slot means maybe you can bring 2 powerful leaders to really like dual lead your force, or maybe just because it's a slightly better combat character or whatever it might be, but it gives you the opportunity to split them up. And maybe in the future, you've got the opportunity to bring some like unique units into those slots. Fill one with a unique slot, second one we bring a high command one in. That's pretty cool too. The last one is logistical benefit. And don't forget, this is the one that you get if you fill a prime slot with a unique subtype. So one additional force organization slot to the detachment that includes the prime slot. This slot may be of any battlefield role other than high command, warlord, or lord of war. So it just means you could take more detachments. You want to have more dreadnoughts? This is the way to go. This gives you an opportunity to have another detachment with more of these things, but it doesn't let you take any of the much better detachments or detachments with better units. So I can see logistical benefit being the thing that people take a lot because they want to customize or theme their army in a very specific way. Maybe they only want 1 unit of Terminators, so they take logistical benefits. They gain access to just one of those units. Maybe they only want like whatever it might be. Like I can see that the one initially maybe people take a lot, but I can also see people being very excited about kit bashing. I'm sorry if it's way too early to say that. Theming, your character and building them, at least with the rules, maybe not with weapon options, the right kind of build, with like plus to their attacks or plus to their leadership or whatever it might be. But this isn't the end of the story when it comes to list writing, because this is just the core list writing tools. And obviously, this is just the core list writing tools for the Marines. When we get into the Legion specific stuff later, we gain additional content, and most likely when we start getting our arcane journals and all of these individual small books that they've talked about in the future, they'll probably expand this out pretty aggressively. For instance, if we go and look at the Salamander leaks, we can see that there's an additional detachment available to them called the Immolation Covenant. This has got 2 support units and 2 armored units as well. but it has restrictions in that only predators and vindicators are allowed to be chosen. And you can see that there are also unique prime advantages. For salamanders, it's duty before death, where models and units selected to fill a prime force organization slot with this prime advantage gain the feel no pain 6+ special rule. So this is going to be quite a lot of information to kind of break down. I mean, if you're only planning on playing one legion, then that's fine. But it does mean that there are 17 other legions worth of different army building and also additional rules. That's before we talk about any of the extra books and extra content that's coming out in the future. So yeah, it feels very drag and drop. I mean, let me know in the comments what you think. I think some people are going to say it feels very drag and drop, and maybe they're a little bit scared it feels a bit 40k. But to me, it feels pretty simple, but also pretty deep. I want to take a certain unit, fine. I take the detachment. I have to take my leadership anyway, right? I've got to take my high commands. I've got to take my commands, and I unlock the stuff that I want to take. So basically, the world's my oyster. Apart from, obviously, I'm making this video very early into the launch edition, you know, weapon options and all those things. And sure, let's just highlight that again, that it's rubbish, and I'm really sorry about that. But there is quite a lot of theming and customization available, it feels to me, in what I can take and field. And also, I don't have to necessarily coming from other game systems, I don't need to use a certain character to unlock armored units, as an example. I can just put anyone in that leadership role to unlock armored units. So it very much feels like I can build a list one day that's pretty simple, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to change my detachments around, and then obviously if the points fit, I just take those other units as well. So pretty easy to do, but also there's a lot of thought there in which units are going to fulfill which slots and who you're going to use to unlock what. And then obviously once you start talking about the Legion stuff, if you're going to take all of these additional things as well. This is the first of hopefully many, many videos I'm going to make about learning the rules for the Horus Heresy. Let me know what you think of this video so far, if you've liked it, if there's anything I can do that's better. I've been reading through the rules and taking notes as fast and as furiously as I can. There's just so much to break down in this. Like I spent a good portion of today just looking through all the universal special rules. One of the things that I did notice is it does feel like with the Battlesmith trait, I can just take multiple Battlesmiths and just repair a vehicle multiple times in a turn, because it doesn't say only one instance. So there seems to be like some really fun stuff in there, which I'm really enjoying, but it's just a huge amount of information. And I want to make sure that when I do talk about it, I talk about it in some pretty intense detail so that you can learn as best as possible. And so I help teach you or help learn. So I need to know what you really want to see and what will help you learn and what things you're a little bit confused about. Other than that, thanks for watching my video. Thank you. I set up a Patreon. People asked me to set up a Patreon, which I thought was super nice. It links to a Discord if you want to go check that out. And yeah, like whatever. And eventually the plan is to eventually build a bat rep room, do some bat reps. I'm going to run events in the future, which I'm looking forward to as well. So loads of cool stuff. I'm very much looking forward to it. So I'm really excited to build some lists. Obviously, all the rules aren't out yet, but at least I know how to do it now, which is cool. Thanks for watching my video. I'll see you soon. Bye.